One history professor, meanwhile, says that he knows the keys to predicting the next president. And in fact, given those keys, says that Donald Trump will be the next leader of our country. Professor Allan Lichtman from American University, good enough to join us now from Washington. And Professor, we do appreciate your time. We should just state categorically, you have correctly predicted every presidential election dating back to 1984. And so, as millions lean closer to their screens, you arrived at the conclusion that Donald Trump will be victorious. How?
By studying history. My system is based on the study of every American presidential election retrospectively from 1860 to 1980, and going forward predicted, as you said, the last 8 elections. And it is simply 13 true-false questions guided by the proposition that elections are primarily judgments on the performance of the party controlling the White House. And the keys are questions that tap in to the strength and governing of that party. And it's a simple system. These questions are true-false, and if 6 or more are false, the party in power is predicted to lose. And right now, the Democrats have exactly, as the party in power, 6 keys counted against them. And based on patterns of history that have held for 150 years, the Democrats are slated to lose the White House. But I have to tell you, and I'm not hedging here, but this is the first time in 30 years I have put a caveat on my prediction.
Wow, there you go. But you've actually predicted, Professor, some elections years in advance. How have you been able to do that? And is this election harder to gauge than past years?
This is the hardest election to gauge since I've been looking at elections, and maybe ever. And the way I was able to do it years in advance, in 2010 for 2012, 2005 for 2008, is the keys, are not based on polls or punditry or particularly anything politicians do. They're based on the underlying structure of how elections really work, and they look at the big picture of governing, things like the economy, foreign policy, policy change, scandals, social unrest. And sometimes those keys begin to line up so clearly for or against the party in power that long before you even know who the candidates might be, you can forecast the election. But there are 2 issues in this election. Number one, the keys are really close and really hard to call. There's exactly 6 keys. And number 2, remember this is based on history, we have a history-shattering candidate in Donald Trump. And it's quite possible Donald Trump could snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. He is unique in all of American history, certainly modern history. We've never seen a candidate with no record of public service whatsoever, but who's enriched himself at the expense of others through numerous bankruptcies, the Trump Foundation, the Trump University. And if what you say is true, I just heard on your air that he laundered millions of dollars that he should have paid taxes on through the Trump Foundation. That is absolutely a bombshell. In addition, he's the only candidate in American history to invite a foreign power, Russia, to meddle in our elections. And yes, he said explicitly, Russia, if you are listening, find those emails, which, by the way, is a violation of federal law, the Stored Communications Act. He has,
which certainly,
yep. Go ahead.
It certainly seems to say then something about an American electorate who might then elect that person as their president. Professor Allan Lichtman, we do need to leave that there for now. However, we are 43 days away from your next appearance, perhaps here on CBSN, to answer in the affirmative or the negative. And Professor, as always, we appreciate the time.
I'm always glad to stand by what I say.